Hi there, this is another look at some critical path analysis. Look, we're doing this as part of Year 12 Discrete Maths for further maths, A-level maths. And we're doing a very particular type of critical path analysis, one that's described as being an activity on the arc. Now, if you've seen exercise 5A.1, the video for that explained that um, AQA don't do this. OCR and EdXL do this version that I'm doing today. But if you're doing AQA, I suggest you go somewhere else. You'll kind of soon realize which one you're doing. It's these dummy activities. If you're getting those, then this is activity on the arc. And that's the slight confusing thing about this version of critical path analysis. Nevertheless, let's make a go at this. Now, I've already done two different activity network examples. I'm going to do the third one today, and then a few bits and bobs to go alongside it. And this, it just gives you an idea of what you're meant to be doing. You'll notice again it's got these tasks or activities that we have to complete, number of days it takes to do each one, and then we have to build an activity network. So we're going to start with the original start node, and I've put it there, and you'll notice I've got A and B are both coming off of it. But then I notice also they are being fed into C. So I can draw them out of here, but I've got a slight problem in as much that I'm going to need one of these dummy activities, because if you recall that we're not allowed to have a situation where we have something going in from a node and another activity going in to the same node. When you get this, you end up a bit like we've got here. You've got to put a dummy activity in, and it doesn't matter which way around you do it. I've chosen to do B into there, A into there, and then this one is going to go up to there. Okay. Activity C, it depends on both of these things, A and B. So that's going to come out of here, and that's 5 days. So where are we up to now? Well, now we've got D. So what does D need to do? It comes out of B, and that's why we needed this here, you see. It needed a separate box for it, because we've got D relying on B able to be done, but doesn't care about A. So there's my D. And my E depends on C, as does my F. So that implies to me I can have two things coming out of there. And I've done this box at the same time. And that's because G depends on D. And that does that. Now I'm down there, I've got H, which depends on D and F. Now D and F, now D kind of must come out of here then, presumably. So here it goes. There's my line going up there. Notice it's a dummy activity, because really there's no more there's no additional activity. So I've put a dummy activity in there, and I can put H coming there as well. Now all these things need to be finished in a nice neat box to finish with. So my finish node is there. It's a bit clumsily drawn, but there you go. Now we do our first pass, going through forward pass, looking at the early start times. And you should recall that we put the 0 in there. There it is, and then all the others we can just see if we can work our way through. Now this is tempted to put a 2, but you know this is 2 arcs coming in there, so actually we're better off doing this one here. This one's going to be a 4, only one thing goes in there, and this one's going to be a 4 as well. So that 4 is easy. This one's a 2 and a 4, and you should recall we always put the biggest of the 2 or whatever numbers going in. The biggest one is what you write down, so that's going to be a 4 there. Now if I add 5 on, it's clearly going to be a 9 up here. If I add 3 on, it's clearly going to be a 7. And now I can look this way. So depending on which one I do first, I'm tempted to do this F. The 7 goes straight into here, but then I've also got this 9 plus 3 makes 12. So I think that's going to be a 12 in there. There it is. The 12, well, I'm going to now try and work out this number. I've got the 9 and the 6 makes 15. The 12 and the 2 makes 14. Well, obviously 15 is bigger, so that's winning. 7, 8 is 15. In actual fact, there's 2 ways of getting 15, and that's it. I put my 15 in this box here to start working out the backward, the late times. From about 15 then, I can start subtracting numbers off. I can take the 2 off, which will give me 13 here. I can take the 6 off, and that would give me 9, but just be slightly careful. They take the 2 and the 3 off. That would give me 5, that would give me 10. Now, you should recall, you always do the lowest one as you go backwards. So that's going to be a 9 there. What's this going to be down here? So again, 15 take away 2 would be 13 there, but 15 take away 8 would be 7. So I know what that's going to be, 7. What did I say that was going to be? I said it was going to be a 9. Yes, it was. 9 take away 5, that's easy. That's going to be a 4. 7 take away 3. I've got to be a little bit careful. This has got 2 lines coming out of it almost, but that's a 4 and that's a 4, so I think this is going to be a 4, and if I take away the 4 I get 0 back here, and there we're done. So I'm hoping that it's starting to make a bit more sense. That's our third proper example of that, and the minimum completion time is 15 days because I've got 15s over here, and the critical activities it reckons are B. Now if we recall here, what we do is we do the outside numbers on any activity, and here it's 4 take away 0, and notice I've subtracted those, and the answer I got is 4. Now notice the activity was 4, so basically I've got 4 days to do it, and it's going to take 4 days to do it, so 4 days to complete the task, and it will take all of those 4 days. So this is definitely going to be a critical activity. But if you do the same thing here, 4 take away 0 on the A, 4 take away 0 is still 4, but its duration is 2, so that's not critical. This looks critical. Look at this, 9, 4 is 5, and it's 5 in between. So yes, this one's going to be critical. What about this one? This one looks critical as well. 7 take away that 4 is 3, and it was. So I reckon that's a critical activity. Any more? So just looking up here, I've got 9 and I've got 6 and I've got 15, so you can see that if I take that 9 from that 15, that gives me 6. I reckon this is a critical activity. 15 take away 12 is 3. That one's 2, so that's not. 15 take away the 7 is 8. This one is as well. So I think it's actually quite a few here. I reckon B, C, D, E, G. B, C, D, E, and G. Yes, all of those are critical. That leads to what we call critical path, which is where this whole topic gets its name. The critical path, you'll notice I can run through from the start to the finish, and those 3 tasks have got to happen on time, or else this job will be delayed. So there is a critical path. And the other one is using the dummy activity up there and then across the top. So from B to C to E is also a critical activity and a critical path, sorry. So a few notes and clarifications. I've got 4 of these, I think. Now, events. I've said, look, there are 3 ways that you can expect these to be drawn. Notice all of these got these dummy arcs. They won't always have dummy arcs, but it's quite common to see dummy arcs on these versions. But they can be what we call events. Like this is an event. Now, I suppose the event here would be what this presumably is the start place in this grid. But having done A, what you'll notice is the event is A is now complete, I suppose, and this event is B is now complete, and presumably because A goes in and C goes into there, all 3 of those are complete. But you'll notice the dots are representing events. So, but they can be with dots, or sometimes you show the order of the dots. I've even seen the one on top of that actually a 1 rather than a dot, just have a 1 with a circle around it. And this is the version that we've just seen, where you have the early and late times alongside. So just highlighting that, you can quite easily get these multiple ways of showing the same thing, and you need to be able to do all 3. Notice an arc may be bent, and I think we saw a couple of those just now around the corner. Just because it's bent doesn't mean there is an event there. It will show that event very clearly if it's meant to be there. Now, I've lost a bit of the title here. Events, nodes, and vertices. Now, these are all basically the same thing. So if you see the title events, or nodes, or vertices, just know that they are all meaning the dots, not the arcs, the dots. The arcs, as you've probably now discovered, are the activities or the tasks, the jobs you have to do to complete a big project. Now, bursts and merges. So these, again, we haven't talked about these at all. A burst, it says, occurs when 2 or more activities start from the same event. So this is perhaps an obvious place. We can see lots and lots and lots of activities all occurring at the same place. That is a burst. I think it asked me to say what the burst. Yeah, so all A, B, C, E, F, and G, they are all bursts from the same point, from the same node. Identify the activities that merge. Now, what does it say? A merge occurs when two or more activities end at the same event. So, for instance, you can see there. See that point there, you can see J and G both end. So if I just show you the answers all together, there's the one that I did, the J and the G, but you also got F and I. Where's F and I? Oh yeah, F and I go into there, and E and H, they both go into there. So you can see what's going on here. So a burst is where they come out of a event or node, and a merge is where they join together at a node. Okay, and the fourth one is highlighting again really what we've just seen. You are not allowed to have two activities coming out of one node and going into another node, where both of them leave one place and both of them go into. That is not allowed, because it causes basic problems later on in terms of how you draw it and making sure you get the right result. So what we do instead is we introduce this dummy activity, and then it's okay. And there's a variety of ways you can do that. There are other times when you need them to preserve precedences, but I don't think I've seen too many of those. And I'm not too fussed about the one I would worry about for you is this one here. And notice all activities have duration equal to 0, and I've talked to you about that before. Okay. So here's another example. It's one basically for me to draw the activity network for this. Now I'm going to just point out one thing. There's no activity times given, duration. So I don't have to worry about that. So for that reason, I'm just going to do dots. I need a start dot. Last time I drew that double box, if you remember, like this. But I don't need that here because I haven't got any time. So just the dot is good enough. And I've got two things coming off of it. Two things that can start straight away. They have no immediate predecessors. So there's my U and there's my V. Now, it's quite straightforward here. W and X both come off the U. So I can put a dot at the end and I shall put a W coming off there. Now notice I'm not necessarily putting my dots, my nodes at the end, because these lines may extend. What was that? W and X. They may extend in a bit, so I'm just being a little bit careful as to what I'm going to do. Well, that's so far so good. Y comes off V. Well, that's nice and easy. I'll put my dot, my node, and my Y comes off. That's there. And what's my last one? Z comes off U. Oh no, I've got to be a bit careful here. In fact, I've got to be very careful here. I'm going to make myself a little bit of room. I did say sometimes you have to rub out when you're doing this. And I'm just going to rub that out and put an X there. And the reason is because I think I need, just looking at two dummy activities. Now, I don't think I've had it like that before. They're both dummy activities because I can't have U and V going into the same place. So I need dummy activities to take account of that, and then my Z can come off here. Now I was almost going to put a line down here. You very often see a line going straight into the other one. Apart from both of them then are required to do other stuff, so I can't even do that. So I'm just doing that, I think. And all of them then need to end up in the same place. So this is where you're not putting the dots on till the end. It's very handy. So this one comes into here, and I've just spotted another issue. Now I want to put that in here, but you'll notice W and X would come from the same dot into the same dot. So I'm going to have to put a dot there and have another dummy activity there. Lots of dummy activities going on. And that looks quite similar, actually. That looks quite similar. So we'll carry on, and let's see what else we can do. Okay, then in our next example, then we've got a forward and backward pass. Now we've seen these in the examples, so this is meant to be more like an exam question. You might see it's relatively small, maybe. Carry out a forward and backward pass for this. So well, we always start with a 0 here, and I can see there are 3 going into there, so I can put that in straight away. Only one thing goes in, so if there's one thing going in, you can write the number in straight away. There's 4. Now you'll notice there's 2 of these. This is quite similar to the one that we had just now. So I've got to be a little bit careful. You'll notice the 2 things that go in, I pick the biggest one. So I can see a 4 going in and 3 going in, so 4 is the number. Now, moving on from this, going into here, I can actually see 3 arcs going in. So I need to pick the biggest of those 3. Now, 3 plus the 5 is 8. The 4 plus the 7 is 11. That's probably going to be the winner, isn't it? 4 plus the 6 is 10. I think that's 11. So now going backwards, we just straight away write 11. We can now take off these numbers. So 11 take away the 7 is 4. Now, is that the only way into there? Yes, it is. It's the only way in. So that's a 4. 11 take away 5 is 6. Or, I suppose from here, now that's a dummy activity, of course, is of duration 0. So 11 take away 7 would be 4. And now what I want to do is make these as small as possible going back. So that's 4 that way, and that's 6. I think that's a 4. Now this way, we're going 11 take away 6 is 5. But if I go this way, I get 4. So, okay, and you can see here 4. Take away 4 is 0. And it is always going to be 0. That's going to be the smallest one. So let's just see if that agrees with my answers. 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 4, 11, 11. I like that. Now, in terms of the one thing I didn't do, it says find the critical activities. So it tells you what they are, they're W and Z. So remember what we do is we effectively do the, I'll just change my color so you can see what numbers I'm using. So I use my 4 and my 0, the outer numbers. 4 take away 0 is 4, my number is 3, so that's no good. 4 take away 0 is 4, and my, yeah, that activity duration is 4. Don't need to worry about the dummies. 11 take away 3 is 8, but my duration is 5. No. 11 take away the 7 is 4. Oh, yep, that one is. 11 take away the 7 is 4. That's 4, and that 11. Sorry, 11 take away the 4 is 7, and it was 7. 11 take away the 4 is 7, and that's 6. So I think this one is, but this one isn't. That agrees with them that we've got W and Z as our critical activities. And our critical path, have we got one? Well, if you look at W and Z, they don't. Oh no, they do. You can see there going along the dummy activity to Z. There is actually a critical path. So the critical path would be like just WZ. Floats. Now we've talked a bit about floats in the last video. Now this is where you do your outer numbers, and then you take away the duration. It's very similar to what we were just doing, so it's probably best if you read it yourself, make notes, but then we'll just look at this here. It says calculate the float for each activity. And probably the way best to do this is if I say, well, let's do it down here. So for each activity, I'll say V. I do the outer numbers. So for V, I do 4, take away the 0. I do that and that. So 4, take away the 0, and then take away the duration, take away 3. That is 1. And now if I do W, now I know this is a critical activity. I found that before. I do 4. Take away the 0, do the outer numbers, remember, take away the 4. That is 0. Now, because it's 0, that's why it's a critical activity. So now looking at X, Y, and Z, now I've got to be a little bit careful. And despite the fact we've got, I just realised I've got to get my pen back. Despite the fact we've got all these different activities, it's actually easier than you think. So we can just do it. It says X, we can do the 11. Take away the 3. So we do the outside numbers and we take away the activity. So don't be confused by the fact there's multiple ways to do that. We just look at the X. So 11 take away, well, effectively 8, that's 3. The Y, well, now what's the Y? That's the 11 take away the 4. And then take away the 6. So I reckon that's 1. And the Z is 11 take away the 4. And this one should be a critical activity, and it's got to take away a 7, which is 0, so that is a critical activity. It says then The start of activity X, where is X? Which one was X? That was that there, is delayed by 5 days. What effect does that have? Well, X it's got a float of 3. Now this is what we call the float, remember. So that basically is, I think of float as leeway, how much time you could delay it by before it mattered. And that means I've got 3 days before I can start losing money, if you like, losing time on this job. Now it's going to be delayed by 5 days. You can see therefore that would make a difference of 2. 3 days won't matter. 5 days means it's 2 overdue. So I think the effect will be it won't take 11 days. I think I can add 2 to that, and I think I'll add on 2 more days there. I think it'll be 13 days. Let's see what the answers say. 13 days is what I wanted. 103, 10. They are all right. So that's it. Then we're going to look now in class. We're going to do exercise 5A. All I would say is all of this stuff, of course, this is year 12 discrete maths, and in year 13 we come back to look at all the topics again. So we do see this again in more detail. Obviously we look at float times, for instance, in a more detailed way, and we look at how this is all scheduled in terms of you might have 4 people doing the job, you might have only 2 people doing the job, and then that would make a difference how long and the job would take perhaps. So all of that still to come, but that's it for year 12 discrete maths on critical path analysis. Thank you.